Namaskar everyone, Nilesh Oak here. Today we will discuss somebody asking a question about the Nakshatra-Devatas for specific nakshatras and its relevance for the dating of Mahabharata. Now, as usual, there are 2-3 different streams how any of these discussions begin. For example, something I may find as additional evidence and I may want to bring it to your attention, or somebody asks a question, okay, a samshaya, a doubt. So this is into this latter category. So the title I have given is Nakshatra-Devatas and the dating of Mahabharata. Let's begin. Somebody with initials APR, he wrote, and of course he wrote a longer email, but I'm taking the relevant portion and some cases paraphrasing it for clarity, but I have not changed the original intent at all. Okay, maybe sometime corrected for spelling or for smoothness. Okay, that's it. So APR writes, he says, well, let's read in his language. Okay, so I saw your video on Saturn and Jupiter evidence and Mahabharata dating. That is to say, APR saw my video on Saturn and Jupiter evidence and Mahabharata dating. He is a PhD student in quantum physics, so physics in general, but also, but visual astronomy is his hobby for a long time. He does not mention how long. Well, the expertise is not dependent on the duration, but the duration does play a role. In any case, he says impressive video, the one that he saw on the Saturn and Jupiter evidence and Mahabharata dating. As he searched more for my work, he ran into this blog of Dr. Jayashree Saranathan. Many of you would know that name. Anyways, let's go further. I was going to say she has created a havoc with this whole area of the dating of Mahabharata. And of course, in the process has contributed in her own way. Okay. And this itself can also be seen as her contribution. Although she is objecting to my assertions, you will see why she contributed. Well, that's why we are having this episode. Okay. Otherwise, the things that we are going to discuss are self-evident. They are simple, straightforward, very nicely documented in multiple ancient Indian narratives. But some individual, in the language of my dear friend, Dr. Shiva Shastri, some idiot will just wake up and at a drop of a hat, create utter bullshit, utter nonsense. And if we have to counter that, then it may take a lot of effort, okay? Because the ordinary folks are simply not aware what's going on, who to believe. And so they just tend to take it at face value without putting their own efforts. So this is a classic case of that, but let's move on. So the lady appears to be, so APR is writing, the lady appears to be eccentric, but the nakshatra tables she posted from Rik version of Vedanga Jyotish caught my attention, caught APR's attention. Okay, you have taken Bhaga, I mean, you meaning Nilesh, myself, I have taken Bhaga as the Nakshatra-Devata of Uttara Phalguni. That is correct. While Rik Vedanga Jyotish states it as Aryama. That is also correct. Funny enough, APR writes, after insisting on Bhaga as a Nakshatra-Devata of Purva Phalguni, Dr. Saranathan does not bother to explain if the position of Saturn was near Purva Phalguni for her claimed year of the Mahabharata war. I'm so glad APR caught this reality. We will briefly talk about this. In any case, his question is more to me, and I will highlight this here. What is your explanation for taking Bhaga as Nakshatra-Devata of Uttara Phalguni? And he says, I have ordered your books and looking forward to reading them. So to summarize, just a specific point that I have asserted Bhaga as the Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni, and therefore Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. Surya Putra is a Saturn. So I said Saturn was near Nakshatra Bhaga and therefore Nakshatra Uttara Phalguni. And by being near, it was torturing, afflicting, giving pida to Nakshatra Uttara Phalguni. In that context, Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan ji is saying, I think, actually, I have that in the PowerPoint presentation. She put forward this list of nakshatra and nakshatra devatas from the Rig version of Vedanga Jyotish. There is another Yajurveda version also. And it states Aryama as the Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni. So his question, APR's question is, why am I taking Bhaga as a Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni and what is the basis for it? All right. And then he has ordered my books. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I am copy pasting from APR's email to me where he seems to have copy pasted writings of Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan ji. And it appears that just from the format or the way she's quoting the references, it appears to be from her blog, but it could be from her book. Okay, I'm not sure. Anyways, she's specifically referring to that experiment number 11. So these are how I have numbered them in my book. For example, when did the Mahabharata war happen? Saturn near Bhaga. Mahabharata reference number 10 in my book, she says, which is great. What is the reference? Bhagam Nakshatra, or with the Pathabhed, it's Bhagyam Nakshatra, but there is nothing like a Bhagya Nakshatra. So let's stick with Bhaga or Bhagam. So Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. Okay, so Saturn was afflicting, giving pida to Bhaga Nakshatra by being near to that Nakshatra, by coming close to that Nakshatra. Okay, Akramya, that's what it means. And then she quotes me. She says, Nilesh Ok writes, Voyager simulation shows that Saturn is near Bhaga, that is Uttara Phalguni, for a period of more than 2 years, leading to the first day of Mahabharata war when it began approaching Chitra. What she has quoted me and is correct, and I stand by that. That's exactly what happened. Now, what is wrong with this? This is what Jayashree Sarnathan is saying. Okay, so let's see what she thinks is wrong. And APR quotes 2 points of hers. So again, this just from the bullet list, it looks like from one of her blogs. I don't know which blog, okay? But curious folks can go and read them, okay? They are actually pretty educational, okay? Educational for different reasons, but educational nevertheless. So 2 issues. What is the first issue? So Nilesh Oak does not define the word pidyate in the verse. All right, let's just read from her point of view, the Purva Paksha. It is too essential to know the meaning as it refers to Saturn in third case, instrumental case Surya Putrena. I agree. I agree, meaning that it is essential to know the meaning. I do not agree that I have not defined it. I have actually defined it. We'll come to that. The dictionary meaning of pidyate is hurt or to be praised or afflicted. Yeah, I agree with all of them. Giving a pida, okay, torture, so on. So Surya Putrena Pidate refers to an affliction or harm caused by Saturn. I agree with it. How could Pidate be taken to mean near? I agree with her. Only a stupid person will take Pidate to mean near. Of course, just let's keep it in mind to be fair to other Mahabharata dating researchers that in a certain context, somebody may take Pidyate as a near, but I agree with Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan that if somebody does that, then they have to explain it. Not only that, they have to take into account every single occurrence of Pidyate and with empirical proof show that their translation, their interpretation is consistent. So I agree with that. Now, what I don't agree with is that her charge, her false accusation that I have not explained it, or meaning of pidyate, or I am taking pidyate to mean near. That is absolutely not true. It's a false accusation by Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan about me. Oak must explain why he interprets pidyate as near. What a stupid demand. I have not explained pidyate as a near, so I don't have to explain something that I have not said it. I have not claimed. But let's move on. So essentially, what this is, it will fall into a fallacy of irrelevant reason. She's accusing me of something that I never said. Let's move on to the second point. Nilesh Oak has aligned Bhaga with Uttara Phalguni. So the first part was related to the word Pidyate. The second one is identification of Nakshatra-Devata. So Bhaga as a Nakshatra-Devata of Uttara Phalguni. Yes, I have aligned it. That is correct. Then she says, but Bhaga is the presiding deity of Purva Phalguni. Well, that is also correct. Now let's see why. For Uttara Phalguni is the deity of Aryama. Now, of course, there is a difference, right? I'm saying Bhaga is the Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni. She's saying otherwise. It is of Purva Phalguni. I'm saying she's correct. I'm saying I'm also correct. Now, how can that be possible? Well, let's look at the reference point. Who is using which reference? She says the Rik and Yajur Vedanga Jyotishas give the list of deities for stars in the sequence starting from Kritika. Yeah, true. For that, Bhaga was the presiding deity of Purva Phalguni and Aryama was for Uttara Phalguni. Yeah, anyone can pause the video, read the descriptions there. The nakshatras are given using their nakshatra devata. It's very important point that everyone understands this. Nakshatra can be directly mentioned with their names such as Purva Phalguni, Uttara Phalguni, Magha, Hasta, Chitra, Swati, Vishaka, or they could be mentioned with their nakshatra devata. That is how it is mentioned here in Rik version of Vedanga Jyotish. Earlier we proved, I'll not just go there, I'll exclude that. I don't know what she proved or what she's referring to. And therefore her essentially the second point, her accusation is, I thought I had highlighted that, but no. Therefore, a reference to Bhaga must align it with Purva Phalguni and not Uttara Phalguni. So assuming the Rik Vedanga Jyotish version, if that is taken, then what she's saying is correct. So the question comes, why did I use Bhaga as a Nakshatra Devata for Uttara Phalguni? Okay. I'm going to explain that in a minute, but essentially, this is a red herring fallacy. It's a distraction, it's a change of goalpost. And please keep this in mind. I'm going to explain why this is a red herring fallacy. Because the real issue is whether Bhaga is a Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni or Purva Phalguni. That's a great point, and I'm glad she raised it. So if I claim Bhaga as a Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni, right or wrong, a minimum requirement on me, a demand on me that I must satisfy is to show for the year I'm claiming, I'm asserting 5561 BC, I have to show that Saturn was indeed near Nakshatra Uttara Phalguni. Now, remember, this reference is from Mahabharata. So anyone trying to date Mahabharata must take this into account. Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan G is trying to do the same, like many other 100 plus other Mahabharata dating researchers. So anyone trying to date Mahabharata must show that Saturn was near Nakshatra Uttara Phalguni or near Nakshatra Purva Phalguni. Like in her case, she's insisting that Bhaga is a Nakshatra Devata of Purva Phalguni. So she should simply show it. Problem solved. She can say, look, Nilesh is wrong here. But because she cannot show, and I'm going to show the data, therefore, to distract people, confuse people, and maybe she has many other possible reasons I will not care to guess, she tries to distract the audience. So people are saying, oh, look, Nilesh here is wrong. Okay. And nobody bothers to ask her, ma'am, if you are convinced that Bhaga is a Nakshatra-Devata of Purva Phalguni, and if Mahabharata has the reference Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate, do you show Saturn near Purva Phalguni for the year you are claiming? Nobody has asked these questions. That's how most of our Mahabharata enthusiasts are. But what about the Mahabharata dating researchers? Why no other existing living Mahabharata dating researchers has bothered to ask this question? In fact, you'll find even today, but especially when Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan started blaspheming me and my research, there were many existing living Mahabharata dating researchers who were acting like cheerleading squad for Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan. And some of them are still doing it. But let's move on. Let's look at what is the reality. What's the truth against this mithya accusation, okay, false accusation. So my response, okay, now Khandan I mentioned, like when somebody claims something, and if it is a problem, meaning if it's a false, now usually they might have done this because it's a false. I'm saying a false accusation is usually made with some kind of tarka, some kind of speculation, careless thought, which is what Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan has done. And I'm going to show how that is so. Now, of course, we can respond with a tarka, and many people do it. In a social media, we can see all the time. Or quickly jump into a futile discussion or fallacies and so on. It's very important to take a pause and make sure we don't fall into those. So, of course, we should point out the logical fallacy, such as I just pointed it out on the previous page. That's a fallacy of irrelevant reasoning, but also fallacy, the second one, is of a red herring type, okay? A distraction, change of goalpost, to confuse people, to distract them, instead of admitting one's own fault for one's own dating, that she refused to do it, she dare not do it, okay? Because it takes courage to show when you make a mistake. But if you truly want to establish what's wrong with such a false accusation and what is the truth, then we have to go for Tattva Jnana, Tattva Bodh. Okay, the knowledge of the first principle, knowledge of causality, knowledge of truth, whichever way you want to translate it. Okay, convention, it can be anything. And basically, if possible, show it with an empirical counterproof. Okay, and so for that, depending on what the problem is, we may use experimental observations, analyzing existing evidence, simulations, logical analysis, whatever it takes to assert that the accusation is actually false and what is the reality. Okay, so what reference we are talking here? It is from Bhishma Parva, Adhyay number 3 and verse 14th, both in a critical edition, also in Gita Press edition. So critical edition takes that Bhagyam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. I want to just make sure that if somebody is going to get stuck there, some Mahabharata researchers have idiotically stuck with that Bhagyam and saying, well, I don't know what Bhagyam is. Yeah, you don't know because you don't read Mahabharata text. If you read the Mahabharata text or even use a basic common sense as it relates to the basic 101 understanding of Nakshatra, you will know more very likely the person is trying to write Bhagam, and Bhagyam could be simply a error, the transposition error, transliteration errors, all kinds of errors. Actually, therefore, looking at the footnotes for critical editions are very useful. So here Bhaga, Bhagam, Bhogya, Bhaga, Bhagyam, see the different varieties. Or for example, here Akramya, there in one case like Vrutya, Nakshatrama Vrutya, which also means directionally the same thing, coming near, overcoming, covering, and something like this means the same thing. Okay, quickly look at the translations from Gita Press. Just the second line is what we are interested, but because it's showing the first line, we will also read that. Maga Swangarako Vakra Shravanaecha Brahaspati. Even that translation from Gita Press is actually 100% not correct. Okay, now I'm saying this because there are other Sanskritists, okay, who unfortunately, maybe good knowledge in Sanskrit, but unfortunately, zero or frankly idiotic knowledge when it comes to astronomy, and therefore they have created a chaos, especially in critiquing my claims. Okay, you know who they are. So I must mention this. So मंगल वक्र होकर मघा नक्षत्र पर स्थित है, बृहस्पति श्रवण नक्षत्र पर विराजमान है. The correction that is required actually is this: Magha Swangarako Vakra Shravanech Brahaspati. Like Mangal has gone Vakra near Nakshatra Magha, and Brahaspati, meaning Jupiter, has gone Vakra near Nakshatra Shravan. So you say Magha Swangarako Vakra Shravanech Brahaspati, and you see some variation, but in both cases, it's important to understand that both have gone Vakra near those respective nakshatra, which is not necessarily clear from this Gita Press translation, and I wanted to point it out. The second part, it says, Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidyate. So Surya Putra, Shani means Surya Putra Shani, okay? Shani is Surya Putra. Purva Phalguni Nakshatra par pahunchkar use pida de raha hai. Okay, very good. So what the translator has done is has taken Bhaga as a Nakshatra-Devata of Purva Phalguni, the way Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan is also claiming. Fair enough? Okay. Now, before I go into the detailed discussion, let me tell you, not even a single Mahabharata dating researcher, living or dead, with the exception of yours truly, has dare show the three things that are mentioned in this verse: Mangal going Vakra near Magha, Brahaspati going Vakra near Shravan, and Surya Putra Shani giving a Pida to Purva Phalguni by reaching Purva Phalguni by being near Purva Phalguni. Not even a single other Mahabharata dating researcher other than yours truly has shown this anywhere. How pathetic is this? But at least in this case, and I'm sure there may be others, but in this case, Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan is accusing me of taking Bhaga as a Nakshatra-Devata for Uttara Phalguni. But it is her duty to show that for her year, whatever year she is claiming for the Mahabharat war, that Saturn must be near Purva Phalguni, which is not the case. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. Okay. So the first one, before we get into that, the first one is her false accusation that I take Pidyate to mean near. No, I do not. It's actually somebody else, essentially, who were cheerleading, doing a cheerleading dance for her. Okay, I will mention them here. They have made that blunder that she is claiming. How come Pidyate to be taken to mean near? I agree with her. Again, to be fair to other Mahabharata dating researchers, I will say in a certain context, the Pida can be given by being near, which is exactly what the statement says here. If you go back, Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate, that Surya Putra Shani started giving Pida or gave Pida to the Nakshatra of a Bhaga or Bhaga Nakshatra or Nakshatra whose Devata is a Bhaga by being near it. So depending on the context, it can be, but she's right that the Pidyate simply cannot be taken to mean near. I agree with her. Now, what is wrong for her is that she is pointing the gun at somebody else, which is namely me, instead of pointing at her cheerleading dance team. Okay. How funny, how humorous. Okay. So what is that word that refers to near? The word is akramya. Akramya, akraman, and all that anyone, the other Mahabharata dating researchers or Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan had to do is simply refer to any of the Sanskrit dictionary. Okay, so I'm actually copy pasting few here from three different places: Akram, Akraman, Akramya, etc. Okay, So if you look at this, and you can pause it when you're watching this and go through all the different meanings. I'll just read quickly some of them. To step or go near to, come towards, approach, visit, to step or tread upon, and so on. Approaching, attaining, obtaining, overcoming, approaching, stepping upon, ascending, mounting, marching, okay, so on. If you go to the second portion here, to go towards or near, approach, this is the word akramya. Akram here again, coming near, approaching, or if you look at akraman, the reason I chose this word, because many are familiar with that word, is falling upon, spreading, subduing, invading, marching against, meaning going towards it, approaching, mounting, ascending, coming near. This is a simple meaning, guys. This is, you can say Sanskrit 101. Okay, all right. And so before going to the second point, okay, quickly here. It's a false accusation. I did not translate pidyate to mean near. Pidyate means afflicting, torturing, I can agree with her translations there, hurt, pressed, afflicted, and 10 more meanings of pidyate. Again, somebody can simply enter the word pida, pidyate, etc. in a Sanskrit dictionary, or go to a Sanskrit dictionary, look for the word pida, and look at the meanings. I don't have to explain anything. I never use pidyate to mean near. But some of her cheerleading dancing team individuals, other Mahabharata dating researchers have made that blunder. But she's accusing me. How surprising, how funny, and how stupid. Okay, so that's the answer to the first one. Okay, I didn't say that. You can look at my books, you can read my books. Okay, so let's look at the second false accusation she's making. Nileshok has aligned Bhaga with Uttara Phalguni. Yes, that is correct. Now she's saying Bhaga is the presiding deity of Purva Phalguni and not Uttara Phalguni, but rather Aryama is for Uttara Phalguni. She's also correct. Why? Because she's referring to a different text than what I refer to. Okay, so she's referring to this Vedanga Jyotish Ruk Samhita. Now, how far back I can go, so I just quickly pulled some, but I will tell you what I have found. So therefore, a reference to Bhaga must align with Purva Phalguni, not Uttara Phalguni. My point is, if she wants to do that, it's perfectly okay, because she has a basis here in Vedanga Jyotish. But that means she must show that Saturn is near Purva Phalguni for whatever year she's claiming. Did she show that? Surprise, surprise. I'll show in a minute. Now, what is my rationale, my logic for taking Bhaga as a Nakshatra-Devata of Uttara Phalguni? Actually, very simple. There are many other references. Just for demonstration purposes and to save time and make the video as short as possible, I am going to only point out one text here. And I'll tell you, those of you who are truly curious, okay, to actually explore multiple ancient Indian narratives, our Samhitas, our Brahmanas, our Puranas, go through the Itihasa, go through all the text, astronomy text, and make a big list, encyclopedic list of things. And note down how these nakshatra and their nakshatra devatas change from one text to another. So why only pick a text that is of your choice? And if you pick that text, which is fine and which is very legitimate, why not take the ownership, integrity, show some Vijnana Buddhi, show some logical reasoning skills, Tarka Shastra, use Tantra Yukti, empirical ways of showing the proof, and show that Saturn is near Purva Phalguni for the year you are claiming, because it's a Mahabharata evidence. Instead, she chose to do a red herring fallacy. Now, what is the answer? In Taittiriya Brahman, just in Taittiriya Brahman itself, in two places, you're going to see the Uttara Purva Phalguni and its Nakshatra-Devata is Aryama, and Uttara Phalguni, its Nakshatra-Devata is a Bhaga, the way I have claimed, the way I have asserted. Okay? And that is true for, the other information for other nakshatras is also given. Now, To be fair, so yeah, let me show you this from Taittiriya Brahmana. So it says Aryamna Purve Phalguni and then Bhagasyo Uttare, that is Uttare Phalguni here. And you can see that again, the same thing, Bhaga referring to the Uttara Phalguni. Now, to be fair, as I said, if you collect few references to Nakshatra and Nakshatra-Devata from our ancient Indian narratives, you're going to see all kinds of variations. And just to demonstrate that, I'm showing you here a few from Taittiriya Samhita. Okay, then so we just now looked at Taittiriya Brahmana there. Okay, so Taittiriya Samhita, and now at least here Taittiriya Samhita and Taittiriya Brahmana are consistent. Even that is not the case. If you look at the Samhita and a Brahmana, you can see even the variation. For example, Taittiriya Samhita, everything that is said in Samhita may not always agree with the Brahmana. We will not go into why that is so. That is a deeper subject beyond the scope of this particular episode. But let me just highlight. In Taittiriya Samhita, the Uttara Phalguni is indeed a Bhaga Nakshatra and not Aryama, as claimed by Dr. Jayashree Saranathan. But if you go to say another Samhita, like say Kathaka Samhita, then yes, Uttara Phalguni, the Nakshatra-Devata, is indeed listed as Aryama. So you see that switchover has happened and the Bhaga has been assigned to the Purva Phalguni. You can see the same thing happening in Maitrayani Samhita. While on this point, let me mention that I know I cannot quote it right now. Okay, I saw the question coming today and I just put forward this quick presentation. But if you truly care, don't come and ask me that question. Actually, you go do it and publish it. If you look at multiple texts, like all Puranas and all astronomy texts, many sub-astronomy grantha, there are hundreds of them. What you will find is just like you will see this exchange of Aryama to Bhaga and Bhaga to Aryama. But I remember seeing these combinations that both Purva Phalguni and Uttara Phalguni, the Bhaga was assigned as a Nakshatra Devata for both of them. I have also seen the list where Aryama or Aryaman are assigned as a Nakshatra Devata for both Purva Phalguni and Uttara Phalguni. And of course, then I've seen this combination, Aryama and Bhaga or Bhaga and Aryama. So I am taking, for example, Taittiriya Samhita reference here. And I will not make it complicated because frankly, it doesn't matter whether you take Purva Phalguni, Uttara Phalguni, as far as my dating is concerned, because it is near. Okay, now what is the definition of a near? We see that for Vishakha also. Samvatsarasthainancho graho prajvalito ubho Vishakhayo samipastho brahaspati shaneshwaro. That same Saturn was also described as near Vishakha. Okay, so a Saturn which is at Uttara Phalguni can be described by Bhagwan Vyasadeva as near Vishakha in the context of Jupiter, of course. Then a Saturn near Uttara Phalguni can also be described in near Purva Phalguni. Therefore, I'm saying it is a non-issue. And therefore, I said the objection, false accusation that Dr. Jayashree Saranathan raised is actually an irrelevant reasoning fallacy. Because even when you take Uttara Phalguni or Purva Phalguni, it does not have any effect on what I am asserting. But it has a significant effect on what she is asserting. Because you'll see her Saturn, meaning for the year she's claiming Mahabharata war, the Saturn is nowhere close to Purva Phalguni or Uttara Phalguni. Go figure. But even a bigger surprise is waiting for you. So stay with me. Okay, let's go further. So this is the answer. Why did I choose Bhaga Devata to APR's question as the Nakshatra Devata of Uttara Phalguni? Because it exists in our ancient Indian narratives, such as a Taittiriya Samhita, which is a part of Yajurveda. It's a Yajurveda itself, okay, Taittiriya Samhita. All right, now I'm just going to show that how this is true for 5561 BC. We begin 1 year before the first day of the Mahabharata war, October 1655-62. That is 1 year before October 1655-61. Why I selected 1 year before? Because there is one reference given by Bhagwan Vyasadeva where he's describing Brahaspati and Shani that is Jupiter and Saturn, in the vicinity of Nakshatra Vishakha, shining brightly, which means what? And settles, Thainancho, Stito, which means they have stationary, and they are stationary, they are slow-moving planets, which means also Prajwalita Ubho, meaning they are going retrograde in that area, and they are there for a 1 year plus time period, Samvatsara. Therefore, I am selecting this. This is the position of Vishakha. And so 1 year before the Mahabharata war, where was Saturn? Saturn was right here. So if I remove this, you can see Saturn here. Okay. So Saturn was between Chitra and Uttara Phalguni, and Purva Phalguni is next to it. So Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate, even it applies for Purva Phalguni. Therefore, I said what Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan, her false accusation, it is a false accusation, but it also has an additional irrelevant reasoning fallacy. It's not relevant for my case, whether even Purva Phalguni or Uttara Phalguni, although I am sticking with Uttara Phalguni. There is a Taittiriya Samvita and Taittiriya Brahmana evidence, support for that. Now, what about, this is that Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate, and no, Pidata meaning near, I am not saying that. It is actually part of her cheerleading dancing team. I will show that in a minute. Okay, Akramya, that means near. Okay, not Pidate. I don't know where she gets such foolish ideas. Okay, so the second one is related to Jupiter. And here I am asserting, it's not said as a Jupiter, it's not said Brahaspati. I am asserting that that particular reference, Shamograha Prajwalita Sadhuma Saha Pavaka Indra Tejasvi Nakshatram Jeshtam Akramya Tishtati. Again, the word Akramya. Whatever that Shamo planet, I am asserting it's Jupiter. If somebody disagrees, I'm fine with it. They have to explain, or they have to tell which planet they consider as a Shama, and then ensure that they show that planet near Nakshatra Jeshta and going retrograde there. That's all that is required, guys, if you don't agree with Jupiter. Very simple. I'm saying it is Jupiter. Shamo Graha Prajulita Sadhuma Sapavaka Indra Tejasvi Nakshatram Jeshtam Akramya. Near Jeshta, that is that word Akramya, guys, not Pidyate. And Tishtati, that means it's settled. So it is there for a long time, and also it's Prajwalita, and therefore it's retrograde. All right. So this is 1 year before the war began. Let's fast forward by 1 year, and let's go to the first day of the Mahabharata war, October 16, 55-61 BCE. Now, what were the positions? Well, still they are in the vicinity of a Vishakha for 1 year. Okay. Of course, they're going to move. Jupiter is going to move much farther in comparison to Saturn because of their orbital periods. And do Vasudev explain these positions too? Absolutely. That is this position, Shweto Grahastata Chitra Samati Kramyatishtati. Okay. So Shweto Graha, I am asserting it's Saturn. If some other Mahabharata dating researcher does not agree with it, be my guest. Tell me, or tell yourself, or tell your audience which that Shweto Graha is. Like, how do you identify Shweto Graha with who? And once you do it, you have to show that at the time of the Mahabharata war, like plus minus 1 year, let's say, it must be near Nakshatra Chitra and stationary there. Okay, Samati Kramya, Akramya Tishtati. What about Jupiter? Oh, Jupiter must be near Shravana. What is the description? Maga Swangarako Vakra Shravane Brahaspati. Okay, Jupiter was near Shravana. If you cannot show that, you have got a wrong year. Okay, all right. Now, since Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan ji insisted that Saturn was near Purva Phalguni at the time of Mahabharata war, okay, and Pidyate means not near, I agree with her. Akramya means near. I'm amazed that how come she didn't know that, but in any case, let's move on. So this is her year, by the way, 3136 BCE, okay? And Saturn is such a slow moving planet that I have taken, like, so 3137, 3136 here, even in plus minus 1 year, it's not going to move from where it is. So right now it is between Purva Ashada, let's say, and Shravan. So it's not going to go anywhere. It might go up to Dhanishta, or it might go up to Purva Ashada. That's it. So Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan is insisting that planet Saturn must be near Nakshatra Purva Phalguni. But in her own case, she has shown that that is not the case. Therefore, her dating is wrong by her own admission. Because that's what she's accusing me falsely, by the way. But this non-corroboration is not limited to that one shlok from Mahabharata, Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. Remember, the position of Saturn is near Shravan and Uttarashada. Okay? These are the 6 references about Saturn in the context of Mahabharata war. And guess what? Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan could not, would dare not explain the position of Saturn as described in these 6 verses for those specific times for the year she is claiming. Not even one of them. Not even one of them, including the one that she's making a big hoopla about. Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. By her own admission, Saturn is giving Pida to Nakshatra Purva Phalguni by being near it. But for the year she's claiming, Saturn is near Nakshatra Shravan and Uttarashada, nowhere close to Purva Phalguni. How pathetic. All right. Now, the false accusation that she made against me, saying as if I am claiming Pidyate to mean near, that's not the case. Actually, the folks who have made such a false interpretation, false translations are here. The year 3067 BCE, this Saturn here is near Rohini. And this, again, you'll see the word Pida here in both cases, okay? Prajapatyam hi nakshatram. So that is a nakshatra of Prajapati. Prajapati as a devata, that is nakshatra Rohini. You can go back to this video, pause that list, and you can see next to nakshatra Rohini, you will see Prajapati, okay, as the nakshatra devata. So Prajapatyam hi nakshatram grahastikshna mahadyuti shanaischara pidayati pidayan pranikodikam. So that pidyati here. Okay, afflicting, torturing, and so on. Hurting, pressing, afflicting. I agree with the translation part of Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan. But taking this to mean near that nakshatra, okay, is the interpretation that she is not agreeing with, and she is falsely accusing me, is actually interpreted, translated by likes of late Professor K.S. Raghavan, late Professor Narari Achar, and in our times, their followers, blind followers, dogmatic followers, such as Dr. Manish Pandit or Dr. D.K. Hari. And these folks, okay, including late Professor Achar, were so ecstatic when Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan came on the scene. And the only reason they were ecstatic is because 5561 BCE claim had destroyed the naivety and foolishness of the claim of 3067 BCE. So they were happy in a red herring fallacy style that somebody else has come on the scene, namely Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan, with a different date, and the attention had been deflected to their joy away from the naivety of 3067 BCE. Okay, so this is, I don't have to explain it. Professor Narari HR is unfortunately no longer with us, but if you would have asked him, then he would have to explain it. But we know Dr. Manish Pandit is around, and so is Dr. D.K. Hari. And they devoutly, adamantly, dogmatically follow this claim of 3067. So my question, the question that Dr. Jayashree Sarnathan is asking me is actually, she's asking to the wrong person. She should be asking likes of Dr. Manish Pandit or Dr. D.K. Hari. Will she ask them? Will they respond? Because until very recently, well, Dr. Manish Pandit, I don't think he's doing anymore. And I'll tell you why. Because when she came on the scene, Dr. Manish Pandit was ecstatic for the reason I mentioned. And he was like cheerleading, doing a cheerleading dance, metaphorically speaking, of course. So is Dr. D.K. Hari. Until now, D.K. Hari still does it, and I don't know why, but until recently, I don't know exactly when, Dr. Jayshree Sarnathan pointed that cannon, gun, whatever is towards the claim of 3067 BC. So they were good friends, and now they cannot see eye to eye. Okay, so that's what is happening. By the way, somebody may be wondering, well, what about late Professor Narari HR? I have evidence that he doing a cheerleading dance, again metaphorically speaking, okay, for the very naive, false, incorrect, stupid claims of Dr. Jayshree Sarnathan as they related to her critique of Arundhati Vasishta observation. But I'll leave that for another time. And if somebody asks that question, I'll be more than happy to show this with appropriate evidence. So this can be taken as actually part 2 into that same series. Are Mahabharata dating researchers intellectually bankrupt, and or do they lack integrity? This could be taken as part 2. Now, if you as an individual, as a Mahabharata dating researcher, or as a Mahabharata enthusiast, or someone who cares for the accurate and precise establishment of Indian history, and therefore the world history of humanity in an accurate fashion. If you want to do it, you can refer to my books, 3 books. In India, they're published via Subbu Publications. If you are outside India, of course, you can still purchase from Subbu Publications, but they are also available on Amazon worldwide. When did the Mahabharata war happen? The historic Ram, Bhishma Nirvan, and some of them have been translated in some of the languages. When did the Mahabharata war has been translated in Kannada? The historic Ram has been translated in Marathi, and also its abridged version translated in Hindi. That's it, guys. Okay. Write down your comments, be succinct. Please stick to the subject when you write your comments related to this video or in the comment section of this video. Do not get into the red herring fallacy yourself. Get distracted, change the goalpost, ask about something else. No, just stick to this subject when you are writing comments about this specific episode. I will see you shortly in another episode. Namaskar.